1, 2, testing. Yeah.
Can hear you loud and clear.
Awesome.
Okay, welcome to a masterclass. So you're all masters. I'm not, but welcome. I don't know how we will do that. So I have stuff that I could teach, but I can also answer questions. So I don't know, why don't we start with questions first, and then I know that everything I wanted to say is absolutely useless. Hey, Coulter. I saw you wearing shorts.
What's that?
You're wearing shorts, right?
It's very warm in our apartment. It's cold outside, but older apartments in New York are very much, let's just give them all the heat.
Yeah, either or. It's the digital principle. I remember when I was studying in Boston, heating was on or off.
Yeah, exactly. Same thing.
Okay. So anyone has any questions? No? So far not.
How has the language of your hair affected your playing styles?
Okay. Kind of hard to say. Well, okay, I just start, okay? I just tell you a couple of bedtime stories depending on where you are and play a little bit for you, and hopefully there's some useful stuff in there. So, Strandberg artist, as you can tell. I have a Strandberg guitar, but please hit the raise hand feature. Hang on. If you have a, and we will spot like you and, okay, that's to everyone. I see. Okay, so if you have a question, please hit the raise hand feature. I don't know what that is. Anyway, so I would say I'm a kind of jazz-related guitar player, and that's how I started. Joe Pass was my first, not my first, but one of my early big heroes. So I like chords, obviously, and I remember the first time I heard Joe Pass, I had no clue about jazz, so I thought, wow, what a genius. I still insist he's a genius, but I didn't know about all those little things that that were specific to the music, like for instance, walking bass, soloing, and which chords and chord voicings. So the more I got into jazz, I realized, interesting. Oh, he's just playing what the double bass is usually playing, and then he's playing something on top of it. So I kind of had to wrap my head around that. And then I wanted to become a jazz guitar player. And one of my first lessons was with a local guy back in Vienna, and I wanted to learn the song Girl from Ipanema. And it's not a super difficult song, but it's difficult enough. And there are actually lots of chords and lots of scales that you need for that song. So that teacher basically wrote me down a list. Over this chord, you play this scale. Over this chord, you play this scale. So it became a rather long list. I had no clue about the fretboard. I knew some scales, some major scales from my classical training, if you want. So I couldn't apply anything. So after a while, after basically, let me just play that for you. After failing with the concept of, hey, somebody is telling you, here you can play F major. And then, so first chord, let me put that a little bit on the guitar. Nobody needs to see my face. Okay, here. So, yeah. Okay, F major. And then somebody told me over the next chord, you can play mixo, sharp 11, or Lydian dominant. And then I had to look, and where is it? And then Dorian. So, but that didn't really sound like jazz or anything, or music, in fact, because it was basically only starting a scale from the root, which was my reference point, and not knowing what to do with that. So later on, I went back to square one and thought, well, maybe I should learn the neck of the guitar a little bit better. And I had one kind of key moment in there, which was what? Playing with one finger on one string. That's the good old Mick Goodrick method. So you play with one finger on one string, and I learned it at a workshop, and later on I bought the book. And I read through the book and I practiced that. So today I want to show you a C, wow, super exciting. A C major scale with one finger on one string. The lick of the year, I guess, yeah? So if I start here on the B string, and here actually I have a C, and if I can do this, great, I have a C major scale. That's not hard. And then after a while, I memorize those locations. Maybe I can even memorize the note names. Good idea. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Cool. So first you could play just with one finger on one string, but then you could get really adventurous and find the same notes on the next string, which would be an E on the E string here, for instance. So I have E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E. Cool. Now you could say, okay, I can shred with that. It's not about shredding here, it's about knowing the notes. So I could already play. Okay, I'm kind of more gravitating towards D Dorian right now. Yeah. Okay, that's cool. So I kind of I don't play this anymore. Yeah, that's not it. And I can even play intervals at the same time. So let's say fifths. Diatonic fifths. Then I can play any interval that my hands can reach. So seconds. Yeah, thirds. Don't they sound sweet? Fourths. Fifths I just did, and the sixth if I want to. They also sound a little sweet. I won't go for the seventh because it's kind of useless. Which brings me to the next point. Hey, I could actually go to the next string and learn C major on the G string. Cool, now I have 3 strings where I know all the white notes on the keyboard. Yeah. And I can come up with any chord. So anything that's correct here. So let me check. This is a C, good. This is a D, good. This is an F. Random notes. And now I just move those notes within the scale. Oh, it already sounds like something. At least some are good. I like. Maybe I can try out another combination. How about this one? Let me check. B, C, A. Cool, it's in C major. Yeah, so I could already combine them. All I'm saying is basically, if I know the notes horizontally on the guitar, on each string, then I can come up with any sort of combination, and it will be at least correct in that scale. Some will sound a little rougher, especially when you have very dissonant intervals in there, and other ones will maybe sound too sweet. Some will be in the middle. You be the judge of that. I don't see all of you. I can see some acknowledgement, like nodding the head. That's cool. Andy, Gregory, you're helping me out by nodding ferociously. I like it. So many people call these chords intervallic structures. It's a highly scientific name for something very simple. By the way, super easy on the piano, not so easy on the guitar because of the fingerings and the way the guitar is laid out. All it means, it's not necessarily a functioning chord. It's just part of the scale. It's an intervallic structure within a scale.
Alex, we lost you. Oh, shit.
Oh no.
I was having such a good time nerding out there.
Modern life. And it was going really well.
Super well.
Mute. Yeah, you're muted now, Alex.
I think there are a lot of people there, but we lost Alex. Let me look. He muted his microphone, but his camera should be on. I think it's a.
It froze again.
His signal has broken down.
Yeah, it froze again.
Andy, on your end, I think your mic is picking up the sound of a fan or something.
Sorry.
For those who have just joined, we temporarily lost connection with our Alex because his internet just went down for a moment, so hang around and he should hopefully get back on soon.
This was a very nice announcement.
All right, Alex, we can see you now.
Alex, you're back.
Mute.
He's frozen again. No,
my congratulations to my internet provider. They fuck it up all the time.
Okay.
I'm very sorry.
Well, everyone's probably just logging on now, so there's bandwidth limitations. You just go on.
Well, no, it's my
I guess they censored him.
I guess he wanted to say it is shit internet provider.
Frozen in mid-swear. That was great.
Automatic censorship.
There are some really good freeze frames, though.
Oh, Sumi is also with us. I haven't seen her.
You're still muted. We can see that you're talking, but you're muted again.
Myself. Let me really quickly run and check with my wife. Maybe she can put up a hotspot or something. 1 second. In the meantime, check out C major all over the neck. Yeah. And you have to know it.
Everybody, C, D,
1 second. 1 second.
G, G, C.
It's going to be really hard for me. I'm in a different tuning.
Yeah. Okay, hang on. Maybe I can join. Do I see it? No.
Så Metros iPhone där, tror jag.
Which one?
Där, vet du inte?
Yeah. iPhone. Okay.
Okay. And now?
What's the password?
Was the Wi-Fi password.
Ah, okay.
But you're connected. We see you.
Hola. How's that?
How's that? Can you hear me?
Alex,
Yeah, it sounds good.
works. Everything is fine.
Okay, cool. So everyone knows the C major scale all over the neck already? Yeah, I can see thumbs up. That's great. Now, with the fourth chords, now we're learning the fourth chords here, everywhere. That's the easiest part to start. Very hard chord, by the way. Can you see that? Hardest chord ever. I'm using hybrid picking. And then I move that on those 3 strings. Then I go to the next 3 strings. Next 3 strings. And the lowest. I didn't play you the lowest. Yeah. So basically, these are fourth chords. There's nothing more to say about it. It's just a color. Yeah. And let me just turn on my. I prepared a playback, a little loop. Yeah. So we can dance. And so now I'm just playing. And so on. So that's basically one way of getting around to building more colors, more chords, as opposed to constantly, which is cool too. But let's say it gets boring, then I would have now chords because I know all the notes of C major. By the way, I'm playing D Dorian, which is the second mode of C major, the minor scale. It's Prince, basically. Yeah. So I think most of you are familiar with that, I hope. If not, just Google Dorian and don't get stuck in architectural sites, music, Dorian mode, you'll find out. Okay, now the next step, and I'm just giving you a little bit of my process here. If I have 3 notes, what happens if I put the lowest note up an octave? This D, which was on the bottom, I put on the top. And now I'm looking at my intervallic structure. And what is it now? It's a fourth and then a second. So So that's the first inversion of a fourth chord. Oh, different color. It's a little bit different then. Great, now I can mix those. Yeah? All I wanted to get is, you don't have to be able to do that right away. You just should get the concept and then map it out on the guitar. And first, just do it in D Dorian. There is no reason to do it in all 12 keys, in all modes for now. I'm a big advocate of learning something in one key first, because we are very picture-oriented people on the guitar. You know, we have those kind of pictures of the chord. So if I learn it first in D Dorian, if I'm really comfortable with that, then after a while, I will be even more comfortable, like putting it to a different key. Coolness, maybe a different mode later on. That would be a little bit too much now for one hour to explain everything, but I'm trying to hard with my hotspot. And guess what? Because it's a 3-note chord, I can invert it once again. So if I'm doing that, I had this chord, what is it? G, C, D. Now if I put the G on top, I've got C, D, G. I inspect it. Oh, it's a second and a fourth. That's a second inversion now. Oops, this one is kind of a little tough here. Your doctor will thank you for that. Yeah? So now, out of the blue, I reorganized the C major scale, or the D Dorian scale if you want, and I already have, you want to know how many chords we have? Anyone can talk if you want. No one's talking. That's cool too. Well, we've got 7 in root position, 7 in the first inversion, and 7 in the second inversion. That's a lot of chords, yeah, out of the blue. And that's just with the fourth chords. So I highly encourage you just looking at them and just using them. The good news is they even work with a slightly distorted tone, because they're small chords. Unless you have like a super metal tone, then everything is mush. But if it's just a little bit distorted, they translate well, I would say. Everyone's following that concept so far?
Yes.
So let
yes.
me just repeat it. Yes? I hear yes.
Yeah.
I'm amazed.
Yes.
All right. So I just looked at all the white notes on the guitar on all 6 strings. I'm comfortable with that. And I'm coming up with one structure and move it through all possible fingerings. That sounds like a lot of work, but hey, we are in a lockdown. We have time. And look at the first inversion and the second inversion. And after a while, I feel comfortable with that, and I use all of them. And I'm still just playing inside. There's nothing outside. It's just D Dorian. Oh, that is nice. And then after a while, when you get bored with that, then you just look at what's possible within the fingering. And I give you one example what I'm doing. So I'm going back to the root position, to the easiest chord ever, which is this. And now I could kind of continue that line just on the top note, on the top string of that chord, G string. That's my little idea. Yeah, and then I move it to the next position. Oops. Or I could play that melody in the middle string. Oh, I like that. So basically, I can use that chord as a starting point and continue one of those voices. Yeah, and it reminds me a little bit. I always call that McCoy Tyner for the poor man, like or any piano player. You know, they have a left hand and then they continue a line, and this would be like very simple or very, very poor man's approach to that, right? Everyone following so far?
Sort of like a bit like voice leading, if you want to do.
Voice leading?
Yeah. Can you use this as a voice leading?
Voice leading is actually a different term. That means if I'm going from one chord to another and I lead the voices between those. I'm not really voice leading here because I'm just playing my stock chords. Voice leading comes actually from choral music, vocal music, where we always try to have small intervals to go to the next chord. I give you the worst example of voice leading, and then I give you a good example of voice leading. Yeah? So let's say typical from G to C. This is not good voice leading. Yeah, I'm just moving the... Yeah. But if I play, let's say maybe, I don't know, then each voice just does the minimum amount. One stays and just small intervals. That's voice leading. Yeah, if you connect two chords, at least to my knowledge. But hey, what do I know? So next step with that is, so I know my fourth chords now, and I can also play a little bit within those. Then I would encourage you to, after a while, once you get bored with the white keys, to basically also just try out playing wrong notes, yeah, to create some tension. So let me run that. I can even do it without the loop. Let's say you can kind of. So I'm just playing wrong fourth chords, but I resolve it to a right fourth chord. I give you let me run the loop, okay? Yeah. So we have kind of a tonal center. So D, Dorian land, yeah? Correct chord. Wrong. And resolved, right? So now, or just a part of the chord. So I leave the top note the same. Oh, that's spicy. Wrong, wrong, correct, right? If you ever heard any Miles Davis, at least from the 80s or so, then you probably heard those chords. I call those the Miles Davis chords, but it's just one little segment of what Miles did. So did I make you somewhat hungry to explore fourth chords?
Yes, I think so.
Nodding, yeah.
Yeah.
One thumb up, that's great.
Never been so excited about a fourth chord in my life.
Man, I'm also ecstatic. I will. Let me add one more thing, because this is speed teaching here. You should take your time and get used to the sound and kind of evaluate how each one of those sounds, you know, some are very dissonant. For instance, this one would be, yeah, I like it, but your ear has to kind of learn that sound so you know when to use it. That's like one of the inversions. Whereas other ones are kind of very nondescript. Spend some time with that. Make sure you can always play it over the entire fretboard and get to know the sound. Might be a good idea. You're learning a lot while you're doing this because you're learning a scale in a horizontal manner. And then at one point you will go, well, that Alex guy with his fourth chords, yeah, I want to explore more. Great, come up with any, like I did in the beginning, with any random combination and move that through the scale. And bam, you have 7 new chords for D minor Dorian, right? So for instance, just like I did before with this one, let's take another one. How about this one? Okay. All I have to do is always check, are these white keys on the keyboard? D, G, B, C. Correct. Happiness, yeah?
Sorry, I would like to ask, how do you train your ear to get familiar with the dissonant notes that you want to add into your playing?
Say that again, sorry.
How would you train your ear to get familiar with the notes that seem dissonant initially?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically, you know, at the beginning, at the very beginning, all I was doing was just playing certain chords over and over again because I didn't have any more. But then you get hungry or you get bored with the ones that you have. And once you have, and then you find a new one, and then you find another new one. Or you can also compare it to food. If you never ate any spicy food, the first time a little bit spicy might be spicy for you. But then you get used to it. Okay, I'm talking to a specialist here, right? And then after a while, that little bit of spice doesn't do it anymore. And then you add a little bit more spice, and then a little bit more spice and more spice, yeah? And once you made the full round of like from bland food to completely burning up your mouth, yeah, then you know the full palate. And then you judge, oh, today I feel more like medium, not spicy, very spicy. It's basically it's almost as if you would go from black and white to color. First, everything was black and white, okay, either or, black or white, and then you learn colors. And that doesn't mean that every color is always the best or like the shrillest color is the best. There's always a context. So I have nothing against a beautiful sounding chord, and I have nothing against a very ugly sounding chord. It's just because I educated my ear, more or less. And that happens basically to everyone who starts listening a little bit more intensely to music. And if you change musical genres or listen to different artists, you know, somebody who's very consonant, and then maybe it gets boring for you. And then after a while, then you ask around, hey, do you have something more spicy? And your friend gives you an example, and yeah, this guy is super spicy. And then you just get used to it. Do we have other questions for that?
I've got one if you don't mind.
I do not mind.
There's a couple of artists that my dad showed me Charlie Hunter years ago.
Yeah.
And recently I got told about Jakob Bro, the Norwegian guy. And
yeah,
I can't help but think, like, if you take a really impressive guitarist, you think, oh, flipping heck, how do they play that? That's physically amazing. But those two guitarists are like, they just, I don't know, have this ability to maybe pick the best notes. And I suppose it's about ear training, leaving space, and maybe experience. But could you add anything to that picture of how do these guys know to choose the best notes?
Yeah, I can add to that because It's a great question. It basically plays into my pocket. If you explore all the notes quite a bit, then you know what they sound like, and you almost attach some kind of, there's some connotation. Like you can do it in spiciness or beautiful, sweet, dissonant. Consonant dissonant would be the musical term. But then there is so much more. Evokes excitement, evokes boredom. If you've done it quite for a little bit, then you kind of know what the 9, for instance, sounds like of a scale. You already know that. You don't have to, you don't accidentally land, I mean, you still might accidentally land on the 9, but you're not surprised by the sound. So you can use that and yeah, just use it, basically. Mm-hmm. And that's the advantage of going through all the possibilities within one. Could be an intervallic structure, it could be a lick that you permutate through the scale, because then you know what it sounds. And then, because you are the cook, yeah, and then you will choose, this sounds good to me, right? And you basically develop your own taste and your own palette, if you want. And then you're one of them. Because it's not happening by accident. It's basically, it's just happening because you wanted it to happen. Does that kind of answer it?
Kind of reaffirms what I was thinking before, so yes.
Yeah. I mean, with Charlie Hunter, who is just super amazing because he's playing bass and guitar at the same time.
Yeah.
I remember Charlie Hunter. I didn't know anything about Charlie Hunter. I just knew Charlie. Some people said, hey, he's great. And I went to a CD shop back in the day. There were still CD shops where you could go in and they had those listening stations. And I listened to it. I thought, yeah, kind of the bass player is a little bit boring. Okay, guitar player. Nobody told me he's doing it at the same time. So once I kind of had to revisit my judgment and say, well, no, this guy's absolutely fantastic. And I just recently watched some videos of him and he's absolutely fantastic. No question about that. Mm. But by the way, whenever we inspect a scale or inspect chord voicings, everyone will have different reactions to different sounds. That's very normal. I remember when I was young and I was teaching kids, for some kids, this F major, like this super simple F major, sounded sweet, and others said they hate it, it's dissonant. That just gives you an example of where is their ear at that moment. Yeah, to me, that's like a super sweet, it's almost too sweet. It's like sugar and maple syrup and a little bit of agave and with icing. But for them, it was almost like, I don't know, maybe this. I don't know. Maybe it was more like this. I don't know. So we have to kind of develop our own taste. And that's the reason why everyone sounds different, because everyone gravitates to certain sounds. I like sevenths, for instance. To me, that's a cool sound. It's dissonant. Yeah, I don't mind that. Other people go, oh, this sounds like a little cat fight. Yeah, okay, I can live with that. So I'm playing cat fight music. That's pretty much it. But in the context, you know, like when I played the intervals before, if I hear thirds, it reminds me so much of my my hometown. Yeah, you know, like cheesy Austrian folk music where there are lots of thirds or sixths. To me, that's too sweet again. That's like too much icing on everything. But if I add one more note, oh, I can live now with that. So I still have my sixth, but I put one note in between. Okay. Very sad chord, you know, sad childhood. Always has to be reflected in my music.
Yeah, I'm British. I get it.
Any more questions?
Actually, I would add to that that if you play a different instrument, how a different instrument is played would also denote how you voice your choice of melodic lines.
Okay, say that again. I have to come super close because it's soft. Go ahead.
So if you play with different instruments, you actually voice notes differently. So if, let's say for Andy, if you have learned with trumpet, or if you play, or if you sing, for example, how you choose the notes would be different as well. So for me, because I'm a singer, so how I play my guitar is also different.
When you're a singer, first, I mean, it's a good question. Each instrument, including the voice, has like, and it's very individual with voice, yeah, has like a good sounding range. So for instance, let's say your range is medium, then why would you only sing super high, right? So you basically shift everything to where it sounds good to your ears. And good is a very relative term, obviously. Yeah? What's good? Yeah? Pleasing, or whatever you want to achieve. Yeah. Let's say trumpet, for instance. Yeah. If you only write in the highest range and you get only those squeaking sounds, yeah, well then you would probably stay away. By the way, it's super hard to play that high on the trumpet. So you always go to a comfortable range. Yeah. And you should also do the same with singing. Where do you sound good? And therefore, that should be the reference point. And if you voice anything around that, voice it around that. I don't know if that answers the question.
I was trying to tie into Andy's question earlier, actually, because he was saying about how do you choose nice notes. So I would think that if I arrange music, for example, if I'm arranging for piano, I think in a pianist perspective. And so maybe that might help you to try and look at a different perspective as well for Andy.
Absolutely. Absolutely, yeah. Great arrangers, by the way, there are great arrangers who always write specifically for an instrument where it's actually easy for that specific instrument to play that part. It almost plays itself, yeah. Like those old Hollywood composers, for instance, Lalo Schifrino, whoever, yeah, they always wrote stuff. They didn't have to rehearse that forever because they knew they were on the clock, like, bam, bam, we have to cut that movie. But it was so perfectly arranged and everything was in the perfect range. So there was never too much rehearsal or preparation time because it was already arranged so well. But sometimes you have those people who write stuff that's almost unplayable on your instrument, yeah, and sometimes even doesn't sound good, yeah. So for instance, on the guitar, if something is super high, I mean, that might not be the best register for a sweet entrance. Or if a chord is way too low, yeah, that might work, that chord, but only if there's enough space. Just imagine I had bass and drums and maybe even a keyboard, and somebody writes that low of a chord for me. Yeah, it will be mush. You wouldn't hear it properly. So there is that. Arranging is kind of, it's a very fine art form. And I encourage everyone to look into that. Where does something sound good? Why does it sound so good? So even with our fourth chords, if I go down, if I'm on the lowest three strings, for instance, which sound darker by nature, yeah? Yeah, I mean, this is correct, right? But it's going to as this, even on the next three strings. So careful with that. Just because something is correct technically doesn't mean it sounds good, right? So we always have to use our ears and ask ourselves those super important questions like, is this okay or is it not okay? Does it translate well? Does it say what I want it to say?
So we've lost him again.
And now I take a picture.
Yeah, really good freeze.
Oh, now it's gone. Oh my goodness.
I'm gonna discuss until he gets back.
Great internet.
Oh, he's back.
Everyone back? Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So if I want like an effect, like just, well, then this chord would be great, right? Or yeah, great chord for that. But for other situations, not so great. Next question.
What albums would you recommend for someone what non-guitar albums would you recommend have been influential on you that you would recommend?
I would recommend basically every Brett Mehldau record. That's always in every Bill Evans record. Piano players now. Of course, Chick Corea, Herbie Hancock. But Brett Mehldau is always. I love listening to Brett Mehldau. It's just very satisfying to me. Who else? No, I stick with Brett Mehldau for now. At least it's an answer.
Yeah, sure. No, yeah, totally.
But I mean, you know, there is so much music out there, and there's always something interesting in each genre of music or from each artist, what they do. So it's kind of depends on what you're looking for, right? So for instance, with me, with Brett Mehldau, what I like is that polyphony that he has going on quite a bit, and the way he plays outside, I like it, and the space that he leaves. That's why I mentioned him. But hey, there is so much good music out there. It's almost like sometimes people ask me what I'm listening to, and I just can name a couple of things because I keep listening to those records over and over again. I'm not that guy who does it by quantity. And sometimes I feel really stupid. They go, do you know this band? Do you know this band? Do you know that guy? And I go, no, I have no clue because I'm still digesting XYZ. Yeah, everyone is different there. But definitely everyone check, I mean, do yourself a favor and check out something from Brett Mehldau. That can't hurt. It won't harm you. Let's put it like that. There will be no physical injury. Can't guarantee it because then you will sue me, and you know we know the American game. More questions or no questions?
So I have
There's a question in the chat from Jesper.
Jasper, okay.
In the chat,
Yeah. I see Me Too, studying Holdsworth is a lifetime journey, absolutely. And
further above, is this your approach to writing chord project? Is this your approach to writing chord progressions as well then? Getting familiar with the chords, or do you approach this differently?
Okay. So when I write, I mean, I just showed you like a small segment of what I do with chords. And this was a very simple one where I hope that everyone can use it rather quickly. But basically, if you expand on that and find more and more colors, then you have more vocabulary. And then you just connect that. And right now we were just talking about one chord. We were still just in D Dorian. But hey, maybe my song has 2 chords or 3 chords. And then the question comes in with the voice leading. How do I connect them? Yeah. And so, yeah, the answer is, yeah, it's a starting point. But then I try to gather more material. And one of my wishes is always to have some kind of, not always, but singable top melody. I have one song, what is it? That's my singable top melody. Okay, but the chords are. Yeah, and then I just harmonize that, maybe a little bit more interesting. And then, oops. then I find colors that I like, for instance. So yeah, it's just learning colors and then using them in songs, which brings me to the next thing. Whenever you learn something new, the biggest favor you can do for yourself is, I have to read one more question. I will address that. Whenever you learn something, write something with it, because otherwise you will forget it, or you might forget it easily. Yeah. But if you have like one chord that you really love, use it in one of your songs if possible. Then you will not forget that. If you like that song and keep playing that song, then you will remember that chord voicing. It was Brad Mailda. Okay, here's a question. What would you recommend for players coming from metal music background that are mostly used to triads and power chords? I think that the natural, organic way would be to first find some artist who's not metal that still speaks to you. I don't think there's like a formula, hey, if you're a metal guy, you should go there. I think it should always be like an emotional connection that you make with some other music. And if you like it, then you will keep listening to it. And then once you keep listening to it, you maybe want to figure out what they're doing. I could say, well, my dear metal player, check out Wayne Krantz or buy my records or whatever. Yeah, but maybe you hate that music. So then, yeah, you heard something different that's not metal or triadic, if you want so. But that doesn't help you. You have to find some bridge, something to find a bridge to more harmonically interesting music. And I'm not talking down to metal music. I'm just saying that, just so you get me. I'm always politically correct. Nah, honestly not. I mean, I'm a huge Ben Monder fan, for instance. But if you're not used to Ben Monder's music, you hear chords where you go, is he sure that's correct? Yeah, I remember chords like, yeah, that's spicy. That's on the spicy side. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Oh, really? You have to get used with your ear. Your ear has to get used to that. So that's what I recommend. Just speak to like-minded people. Hey, do you have any recommendation? And then you go, and then you check it out. And once you bond with that music, then there is a chance that you will really check it out and dig a little bit deeper. But most important, whenever you work with some new material, make sure you use it in your compositions. And even if it's not a composition, then write a little etude or something where you can use it in a musical context. Because nothing is more boring than sitting there and saying, hey, Alex said I should check out fourth chords. Great, I still can play them. Cool. Somebody else said I should do sweep picking. Okay, great, I can do that. That's not like great practicing. You should always put it into a context called music. Yeah? And that's what I always do. When I learn anything new, I try to use that kind of as much as I can. More questions? Thank you. Great, Alex. Thank you. No? Dieter, no questions?
Question here. So earlier you were talking about the colors, right? So when it comes to developing a color palette, from your experience, what are some of your favorite color? When you're talking about developing your color palette, so to speak, what are some of your personal favorite combinations or approaches that you found?
As I said, for instance, those sevenths, I play them all the time. If you hear me playing over one chord, you will hear sevenths in no time. I learned to like the flat 9. Yeah. Oops, stuck. In the right context, that could be a cool sound, or maybe, yeah.
Nice.
Kind of dissonant, but still somewhat work. Let me play that to the playback so you hear it. Yeah. So, Or maybe this one. Then the seventh. And then you can always sweeten it up if that's too harsh. Add one note in the middle. And so on.
Nice.
So there's just I like dissonant, but I also like cheesy, so somewhere in the middle.
Cheers.
Okay, guys, why don't we each write down one takeaway from this masterclass to share what we each learned? For me, I learned that we should write the new note combination colors we're discovering into the song. Yes, absolutely. Okay, and in 4 minutes, there's Jack Gardner's learn fourth chords in several positions. In all positions, yeah? In all, every possibility, yeah? Not in everywhere on the neck, yeah? Practice everything in a musical context. Absolutely, I agree, yeah? Hopefully. And by the way, I have to wrap it up, I guess, yeah? Spice things up, I love it. Yeah. Man, those comments are very reaffirming. Yes, I said something correct. Sometimes guitar players tend to focus too much on technique. And I give you 2 examples of people who, of course, can play the guitar very well, but are not known for their brilliant technique, who I love a lot. Bill Frisell and John Scofield. It's not that they can't play the guitar, but you wouldn't call Scofield a shredder. And you certainly wouldn't call Bill Frisell a shredder. But trust me, when I go and see them or hear them, I don't even question if there is enough shredding. So in certain circles, the whole shredding thing takes over or gets too much attention. And sometimes the content, the musical content gets a little bit, you know, in the background. Oh, notes per second, you know that term. Yeah. Oh, that guy, you know, his pick melted and the guitar strings started glowing and everything went on fire because it was so fast. That's just one aspect of music. I like playing fast. I mean, as fast as I can, sure. But I also like playing slow. And there is one chapter in my book that I haven't written, but I will write it at some point, which will be, I can play much slower than you. That should address that, because you know, so and so many people always quote, always say, "Hey, check out Jeff Beck." Well, Jeff Beck is also not like a shredder. Nothing compared to Sean Lane, if you want. So, David Gilmour, very, very true. So there are so and so many people who still get their point across with maybe not the top-notch technique, but they've just got enough technique to get their point across. So I would just weigh content versus execution. Yeah, I mean, of course we have to execute it cleanly, but don't put the focus only on that. Okay, I have to wrap it up because I don't want Jack to wait, so Jack will take over, I suppose. All I can say is, well, thank you. I hope there's something useful in there. I didn't play my song, that doesn't matter. Who cares about my songs? And yeah, sorry about the shit internet. I really tried my best, and it is what it is. That's what they keep telling me. So thank you very much. Clap, clap, clap. Like it? Awesome, awesome, I see. And now I could go to view. No, I can't even do that. Gallery.